is where we discuss the possibilities.
Hi guys, I'm Joe Klemczewski, founder of The Diet Doc, here with Dr. Kori Probst, our health psychologist, and we're going to be in our Motivational Mastery segment. So this is where Kori's going to take over and just school us on exactly how we need to be living our lives. And today, specifically, eating like a normal person. When you gave me that phrase, Kori, I knew exactly what you meant because I hear this all the time, especially in our world of coming from performance and physique sport coaching. So eating like a normal person from fear to freedom. Tell me what that means.
Yeah. Well, when I was really reflecting on what I wanted to talk about today, Joe, this statement just kept coming up in my mind because it's something I hear over and over and over again from my clients. And underneath this statement is this tremendous sense of fear and anxiety and beliefs about what I should or shouldn't be doing, or should or shouldn't be eating, or should or shouldn't be feeling. And I think it perpetuates from all of the messages that we absorb from the diet culture and many from the physique industry. And these messages that we're getting rob us of a sense of ourselves and a sense of what we understand to be appropriate for us as individuals, whether that be simple food preferences or ways of eating. We get the message that emotional eating is bad, and maybe we need a whole other segment on that, because if we're human, we're emotionally eating and it's going to happen. And so we adopt these dichotomies of this is a good food or this is a bad food, this is a bad behavior and this is a good behavior. And what I find is that oftentimes these beliefs, these definitions, these dichotomies, the language that we're using isn't even our language. It's language from research, and research that may not even be appropriate for us to be implementing in our lives. It's language from outside influences, a lot of social media. It's language and rights or wrongs based on the people we follow on Instagram, for example. And this is the way you should look. And if you're not clean eating, then you're not eating well. Just some simple examples. It's language from family members. It's language from people that we would call our friends, but who are not necessarily empathic to our real needs and what creates joy in our lives.
So if you don't mind, let me frame this as tightly as I can for everybody listening, because you did just really adjust the topic a little bit for me. Very, very much so clarified it. So the fact that regardless who we are, we have perceptions of eating. It starts out at home with your family, but I know I have 4 children now. The youngest is almost 16. So 2 young daughters, a son who's a musician, and image matters. I see that developing more in him than ever. And all of them have their own relationships with food. And ironically, with what I do for a living, we never really talked about it that much at home because I never wanted to make it a big deal. I want them to live their own lives and create that character in terms of their health on their own. So what you're talking about is really anybody. I mean, whatever diets we have used, whatever language we've adopted, we're now tangled up in that somewhere. And as you're describing it, it's very hard to break free into any kind of true understanding because we just build these lists of do's and don'ts. So Am I on the right track with that?
Yeah, totally. The relationship with food. And you said a couple things that made my brain ping. One was you're seeing your son change and develop in terms of his body image and what he's calling important and what he's paying attention to. And you see in his actions indicate how his beliefs are shifting. Then you said, and based on like what I do, what my profession is, I didn't want to bring anything up about food because I didn't want to shape them really in any way. I wanted them to be individuals and to come up with their own conclusions. And that in and of itself, I think, and I'm not focusing on you specifically, but people in general, that's a problem that we're not bringing it up because we need to talk about it. We need to air it out, because when someone comes to me and says, I want to eat like a normal person, they're not talking to anyone about that except for me. They remain quiet. They're hiding because they're so uncomfortable. And I'm not going to apologize for being emotional about this, but you guys are seeing what happens when Kori gets super passionate about things. It does make me sad. It makes me angry. And I don't want to go off on too many tangents about this, Joe. I'm still trying to wrap my own brain around kind of how to do this in a succinct way, like you were trying to frame it. But I had, besides my clients coming to me with this concern and tremendous fear, and me being in a position now to help them extract themselves from the culture and the rules that have been created and that they're living by, and asking them the really tough questions. It's brought me back into my own experiences, which is awesome, because I never want to stop reflecting, and this is what helps me to be the compassionate coach that I am, and to help individuals become compassionate advocates for themselves. But I had a few experiences come up over the last few weeks that really got me thinking. And this is coming in on the heels of our creativity series, right? So these experiences, me doing a bit more reading, especially on body image and diet culture. So all of these ideas are coming in. But if I can I share what those experiences were just real quick?
Of course, absolutely.
So I needed to go to the doctor recently, and the first thing that the person did, what is the first thing that when we go to the doctor's office, they do?
Ask for your insurance card.
Okay, past that point,
You're right.
the front desk. You are now in the office, and they're leading you down a hallway to what?
Oh, they weigh you. Right.
They weigh you. Now, as I'm walking towards the scale,
with your clothes on, with your keys in your pockets, you know.
Happy boots with your stuff. And I'm just thinking, what would happen if I said I don't want to be weighed? Because I don't know that they have to weigh us. If there's any medical doctors out there, like, chime in after this podcast, but I don't think they have to. Do you know, Joe?
No, it's truly just a normal standard practice because they want to keep track. I mean, hopefully they're creating some metrics for years on you, and they want to know, wow, your weight's really trending up, or you're losing weight. And so, you know, it's really just for them to be better caregivers.
Yeah, and I've actually questioned that, because there have been plenty of studies that show that, well, not intentionally, medical doctors have their own, you know, level of discrimination going on in the background, and weightism, or whatever you want to call it. So I had that experience, and I said, I'd rather not be weighed. And she said, well, we have to.
Oh. Interesting.
I didn't argue. And that's a whole nother issue. Like, why didn't I argue? So there's all this psychology stuff happening for me.
Wow.
And what if I'd been a person who has disordered eating? And seeing that number affects me negatively.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened. Whew, okay. Gotta breathe here. Here's the next thing. I'm on a plane coming back from a trip recently. Very back row of the plane. And there's a larger man in the seat next to the window. And my seat is right next to his. The armrest is down, and yet half of my seat is taken up. There were parts of me. I was annoyed. I was angry. And then when I felt those two things, I got really sad. And I commented on this to a friend. And he said, this is after the fact. And he said, well, you're in the perfect position because you're a nutrition clinician. Like, you could have talked to him and said, here's my card. And that made me sad too, because I'm like, what if this guy's perfectly happy? Okay, right. He's about 400 pounds, if I had to guess. But what if he's perfectly healthy? Because size in and of itself and weight in and of itself doesn't imply unhealthiness. And so, okay, I know we can argue back and forth.
Right.
So there was that. And me being, and this is another thing, I've said the word compassion again. I had to offer myself some compassion because I felt really awful about how I responded in that situation. Or just the emotional environment that was there for me internally in that moment. Here's the third thing, and this is a happy one, and it comes back to compassion and connection and what we need to practice if we're going to learn how to eat like a normal person. So I got an email from a client. This is a nutrition and mental edge client, so we're working on everything, right? She is learning how to be a compassionate advocate for herself. And she writes me very excitedly, and she says, you said something in an email to me, and your words resonated so significantly with me. I want them on a tattoo on my body. Yeah. Do I have your permission? And I was like, my initial reaction was a little bit of anxiety. The first thought was, but what if she ends up hating me and then she's going to have these words on her skin permanently?
Tell you want the citation, you just have to quote and use my name on the tattoo.
Right? I'm like, what did I say? I still, and it's been about a week, I don't know what I said, and she has the tattoo. So I will see her soon, actually, and I'll get to see it. But she's super excited about it. And, you know, as I thought about that experience, I thought the way we act, what we say, the words we convey, the language that we use is so impactful. You know, we say this all the time, words matter. Yeah, because they might be tattooed on someone's bodies, guys. They're that important. They create that much emotion, which promotes action. And this comes back to the language that we use about food and about our bodies and about exercise even and fitness can perpetuate a sense of joy and vitality and openness, or it can move us into deprivation and rigidity and ever more fear and really minimize our sense of choice and our sense of autonomy. So,
So let me jump in real quick, Kori, because you are bringing up a lot of linguistic and emotional things. But I think tying that back to your original premise that eating like a normal person should be a goal first, what does that even mean? I think that's very important. And I'll go back to my kids. One of the things that I did not want to do, because I know parental pressure, even if it doesn't come from a nutrition consultant or health scientist, it's just there. I mean, as parents, you can just put inconceivable amounts of pressure on your kids without even intending to. So, of course, we always modeled great eating. We had splurges, and we had, hey, let's just make sure we eat the good food first, then we'll have a snack. And, we did all those things that we can talk about ad nauseum. But the great thing is, all four of my kids, even though they've all gained and lost weight, gone in and out of different exercise type periods of their life for different reasons, they always come back to exactly what you said. They just eat like normal people. They never go on any kind of a weird faddish diet. They simply start eating better, watching what they eat, reducing some of the snacky type things. They work out more. So it's been a great thing to treat nutrition like I think you should any part of health or social development. Here's the scope. This is what the world is like, everybody. You've got choices. You get to decide what your life is going to be like. But if you start adopting all of these different do's and don'ts and internet expert crap, you're simply never going to know what that even means. What does eating like a normal person entail?
Right.
So what do you tell that person who says, man, I'm so lost at this point, I don't even know what that is?
Well, my next question to them is, what would eating normally look like for you? If you could just wipe away everything that you've learned from these 20 diets that you've done, because I hear this mostly from chronic dieters. How would you eat? What would you eat? What foods do you like? And let's not look at it as what foods that you classify as good right now, but what do you truly enjoy? If you were going to this celebration, what would you eat? Without any guilt, without any shame, without any extra exercise afterwards because you have to punish yourself because what you ate was wrong and it was too much or whatever. Just tell me.
What's great about that question, Kori, is we will spend probably an infinite amount of airtime talking about the mechanics of those questions, but staying with the mindset. I think of a client right now that I've worked with for years and years, and there's always been pretty overt disordered eating involved that this person couldn't even see or recognize.
Right.
And finally, there have been some breakthrough moments, and I'm hearing language like this, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what real life could be like. I don't know. This is amazing. Just to be able to go eat something and not worry about, is it the right food? Is it this? Is it that? It's almost breathed literal life into this person who was suffering so deeply that it was something that was even subconscious, not even aware of.
Right. It's such an abnormal experience for people when they come away from a meal and there's no guilt. There's no sense of, oh God, what are the consequences going to be? Or, oh my gosh, my coach is going to be so upset at me. I mean, I hear that a lot too. And it just makes me sad because there has become such a significant lack of self-trust in the process. So
it's a great concept right there, by the way. That phrase, I just want to let that hang there for a second. That's big. Self-trust.
Yeah.
Because we know what's appropriate for our health and what's a good decision, but to just let go of all of that guilt is huge.
Well, yeah, a decision that honors more than just this is a protein and I need protein to stabilize my blood sugar. Okay, yeah, that's true. That's helpful. It's a principle that we can incorporate into all of the other factors that play a role. You know, the client that comes to me and says, oh my gosh, I enjoyed movie theater popcorn today when I went to the movie with my kids. I don't feel bad about it at all. That's weird. That's an odd experience.
That is a sad commentary, right? Like that,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I've ever not had popcorn in a movie theater.
At the theater.
Right.
And where did we ever come up with the idea that this would be wrong or bad doing it? And so, you know, as I think about all of these different factors swirling around and the things that we can take into consideration that move us away from food has become a judgment. It really has. We sit down to a meal and a lot of us are automatically thinking, is this right? Is this wrong? How much of this should I eat? Is there enough protein on this plate? Is there enough color? And you saw my face and you heard my tone of voice when I was asking myself those questions. If they're freedom producing questions, awesome. Like, oh, I don't want more red on my plate, or like, I need 3 more colors of the rainbow on here and then I'll be really happy. Like, you've heard me talk about my salads. I am disappointed with a salad that only has spinach and cauliflower in it. I'm like, eat color. It's making me sing though. It gives me vitality. If I'm sitting down to a meal and I'm like, that doesn't look appetizing. And then I'm tuning into my body too. And I'm like, I'm not even really hungry. And then I'm like, my friend is looking at me and looking at me like, why aren't you eating? And then that's having an impact. You see that there are so many different factors that we have to be aware of and pay attention to. And then, so the self-trust comes in where we can be like, what do I need right now?
I'm sensing that we could actually do a little therapy for Kori on this topic. I know you are very strong on I should be able to have autonomy and I should be able to eat what I want. And even if I'm in a place where I could just say no, I don't feel bad about being a bad guest. But I've always argued the other side, which is be more pro-social, be more forgiving and generous to a host. Mm-hmm. And then you can adjust eating a little bit later if you need to. You can adjust how much you eat. But again, I mean, each side, we're talking about the same side of the coin, or 2 sides of the same coin, which is, both are necessary.
And it's what I flip back and forth every single day,
right,
as working with clients and within my own life. Because I mean, if I didn't have a partner, I didn't live with someone, I would eat differently. I totally would. It would be a lot more, I don't want to say rigid, but it would be a lot more routine. I'll say that. And not because I'm punishing myself, but I'm a single, then I would be a single person. I only have to cook for one person and I don't have to think about, the social aspects of, and us going out and where we're going to go and all that stuff. But perhaps, yeah. I mean, I look at my life as a therapy session all the time. So we could certainly incorporate that into the podcasts.
All right. So what I want to say, Kori, as just a way to wrap this up for now is I think what I hear you saying is, with all of those things flying around, the entire dynamic nature of all the things to consider, if we could just have less value-based judgment, where we think every moment with food that this is a high-stress situation, that I have to make the right decision, a lot of these problems would just probably take care of themselves because we could trust ourselves more.
Yes, I very much agree. that food does not need to be moralized as much as it is by so many people. And when we can begin asking ourselves the questions like, what do I actually like? How do I want to eat? When do I want to eat? You know, diets are all about timing and how many meals to have. If you just kind of did it organically, what would happen? What would it look like? But there's a piece to this, because that moving from fear to freedom can not feel like freedom for a lot of people. It can feel very scary and out of control. Because, I mean, ironically, when we try to control, we actually feel more out of control. But if you've been in that space for a long time, you just feel completely chaotic. Like, if I don't have any rules, then I'm just going to go off the deep end. It's the person who is like, oh my God, if I have one bite, then I'm going to eat the whole cake. Well, why is that? Probably because you've demonized cake. Probably because you never allow yourself cake. And if you put that on the good list, like every other food on the planet, and you said to yourself, I can literally have cake anytime. I can have cake anytime. The fear is that then they will have cake all the time, except they won't. That never happens when they've allowed themselves the full spectrum of food. So here's where I want to go for the next podcast. Okay. We need a strategy to move from fear to freedom. And the way I see it is, there's 3 legs to a stool. Like, and if one of them is broken, then the stool topples over. So the 3 legs that I kind of would like to begin talking about when we move into the next podcast is macros. And I say that word and everyone's brains are pinging like proteins, carbs, fats. Like, that's all they know macros to be out there. Macronutrients. Okay. But I have a different way of looking at that. Macros is the first one. Metabolism is the second. Mindfulness is the third. And if we are to move from fear to freedom, freedom ideally will incorporate the consideration of all 3 of those.
Perfect. So it looks like we're going to make this a series.
Yeah.
That's our new thing.
We like series.
It allows us to kind of pick everything apart with a little bit more depth. So I like that. And we'll add the 4th M to this one, which would be the moralization of food. And guys, what I want to do is, I don't know why, I'm gonna moralize our YouTube account. I was just, Kori, online yesterday with my favorite YouTube guitar instructor. And I made the mistake of seeing he has more than 900,000 subscribers. How much more important is this information that you're bringing to us all the time? And I don't know how many subscribers we have. I had 0 idea. But now that I saw that number, I want to compare. And I want to say, well, we need a big number. So you guys have to help us justify our existence by subscribing. or I have no reason to go on. So, share this. Let people know we're out here. And like I said, I'll make that my homework. I'll see how many subscribers we even have, because I don't know. But anyway, guys, do that so that we can keep bringing some cool stuff. I want to keep interviewing Kori and vice versa, and bring on some guests. We're gonna be back in the coaching clinic soon with some more dynamite people out there that you're gonna want to know. So thank you guys very much. And Kori, I will be back with you tomorrow, and we'll keep talking about the 4 M's.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe.
All right, guys.